Here, 420, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this Thursday's no different. Right after me, Stinky Arts, Music Mart, Locals on the 8, Radio Madness, and then Black Ring Ritual wraps up your Groovy Thursday. And then, of course, Friday has a whole nother batch of DJs. Same level of quality, just different variety. You're not going to find that anywhere else. This is the best radio station in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So support independent radio and support independent music here at Fargo, where we hail from. Again, we talk about cannabis legalization, cannabis news in general, whatever I decide I want to talk about from the week prior, and I'm going to do a bang-up job. I'm like a fox with his tail on fire today, folks. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. South Dakota is in a fury. North Dakota wraps up the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition for the constitutional amendment. They've got plans to move forward, so we'll talk about that, of course, 420. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, blackcottagealchemy.com. You can go downtown here, Tochi Products, odds ends in West Fargo. Pick up their body butter. It's made with kosher full-spectrum CBD. North Dakota grown hemp. It's got 1,600 mgs of CBD in this mango butter, shea butter, cocoa butter, beeswax, coconut oil, colloidal silver, turmeric, bat's wing, neuropathy, pain, inflammation, eczema, psoriasis, diaper rash, dry and irritated skin, etc. Feet, foot, and toe fungus, tattoo aftercare. They're bringing you this show about cannabis and cannabis legalization and the benefits of cannabis. And so we thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy. Again, you can go to Tochi Products downtown here and get you some of that. You have, I would say, and normally I would say sign the petition. Sign the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition. But the deadline is in 2 days, and so they're in the process of, acquiring said petition. So there wouldn't really be any chance. So they came short, so that's not going to happen. But they really got a lot. They just established their, the infrastructure. So they're not going to stop. So we got more to talk about how they're going to revamp and move on, because moving on is how it gets done. Nebraska, that's proof of that. South Dakota, man, oh man, we got some fun stuff to talk about. South Dakota, stinking Christy Nome, she pushed the chess piece, that's for sure. So now she's suing them back, and so we'll talk about that. That's exciting. I believe cannabis was created just like any other thing in this world to benefit us and to use as we see fit by God Himself. And I show God His props at Antioch Church Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. in South Fargo. This is my open-ended invite to come and do the same thing. Again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. I come hippity-hoppity in here. 420, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and you can bet I'm going to do that. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So again, just bear with me as we push through this red tape that I am obligated to do. Again, RadioFreeFargo.org is streaming wherever you listen to it. We thank you for your support. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can also buy some merch. You can donate. You can also be an underwriter, which I'll show you an example of that as we get along here. Just again, go to RadioFreeFargo.org and reach out, and somebody will walk you through the process. Again, Orange Records would also have the petition for the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, but again, I'm running out of stuff to talk about because that comes to an end in 2 days, and so I don't believe that any petitions are anywhere in any business so far. I do want to mention that there's 85 businesses currently in the state of North Dakota that is, behind cannabis legalization and will support with a petition in store. So that's good news, and then that is motivation to continue. So I'll keep you abridged on what's happening here in North Dakota. 420, we'll talk about cannabis news in general. Again, thanks for joining me. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on Instagram. I'll keep you posted when I throw this show up, minus the music on YouTube. And again, I would always encourage that you listen to this show on the best radio station in the world, independent radio. Support it. Every Thursday, 4 to 5, I come up in here and I do a bang-up job, in my opinion. And if you can't come here, then go to the podcast platforms, the one with pot in it, and the one is the fruit. Or again, on YouTube, CannaTalkND.com. Subscribe if you're feeling froggy. And again, let me shout out this. Radio Free Fargo presents Mr. Meaner, Tommy Goodroad, and the Highway Birds. Walker Rider. That's coming up January 22nd. If you're good at math, that's 2 days from now, 8:30 doors. 9 o'clock show. The Aquarium, a.k.a. Dempsey's, a.k.a. The Fishbowl. $8 gets you in. Again, support local radio and local music. And that's how we get down. So, I think I've covered it all here, haven't I? Let's do a little song. This is brand new Kebmo. Lean on Me classic. Coming at you, KRRF. Oh, yeah, brand new. Lean on Me, Kebmo. Brand stinking new this month, this year. Happy New Year. I can still say that probably for a few more days. You're listening to KRFF 95.9. Moorhead, Fargo, RadioFreeFargo.org. We're streaming wherever you're listening. We're there for you. This is Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We talk about cannabis legalization. We talk about cannabis in a positive light. We talk about all things cannabis. The funny, the ugly, the purty. And now I'm just using adjectives, for fun. But again, thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening to me. 420, we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And I got, as they say, a buttload's worth, or a pipe load. Hey, we got a bowl's load worth of cannabis news to talk about here. So thanks for joining me. And actually, if you're one of those guys, get out of here. Come back in 10 minutes. And then, you know what I mean? You can get something done and still not miss anything. Stinky Arts Music Mart is right after this show. Then you got Locals on the 8, Radio Madness, Black Ring Ritual wraps up your Thursday. And let's not forget any of the other days of the week here on Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9. It's just, it won't be me. But again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. And if you've never listened to this show before, please put your left hand on a High Plains Reader. High Plains Reader, do that too. Or a Rolling Stones, or a High Times, or in my opinion, use the thing that makes the most sense. Put your left hand on the Bible, your right hand up in the air, and say, I doth solemnly swear to always call cannabis cannabis and never call it weed, dope, marijuana. So help you God. All right. Well, let's move on here. Again, Indie for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition is wrapping up here in a day or two. They didn't get enough signatures, but they got enough, and they established an infrastructure, so they got a plan going forward. Of course, they're not going to give up. And I don't think anybody should give up on the legalization of cannabis because it benefits everybody, and every state that's doing it certainly has more feedback of the positive than the negative. I've yet to see the increase of crime. I've yet to see the hospitals filled with children. However, I read this article about this kid was brought into a dispensary with his mom, and there was a kid-friendly area, which the argument is that your kid shouldn't be anywhere near a dispensary or a liquor store. Like, I did it every once in a while when I was drinking. I bring my kid in. But again, they had suckers for her. You know what I mean? You go into a place that, it's the Pulp Fiction's the El Royale with cheese. That store. Then, let's not forget the Dirty Nester. I mean, that smell. I don't know if anybody's ever been into the Nester. It's like a branding of your nostril. You'll never not be able to smell the Nester, even though it's been raised and tore down for a long, for, 8 months, a year or so. If you just say the word nest, my nostrils goes, oh yeah, remember that smell? Whoa. Anyway, so this mom brings the kid in, but one of the bud tenders, had a THC-filled cake pop that, she got distracted. She was over in the kid-friendly area and just left it there next to the other candy. And so the kid, he came and he ate them. He ate the THC cake pop, which, I would say he's got good taste in cake pops. Feel me? Anyway, he was all right, but he definitely required some attention. But depending on the MIGs and his age and, just the general situation, I can't, I don't know. I think his mom should have her head examined. You just don't do that. You be careful. And so that's just a little side story that I thought I'd just bust through here. But again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4 o'clock, 4:20. We open a big fat bag of cannabis news. I just wanted to say, if you're interested in being a sponsor of this next thing that's happening with the Indie Cannabis Caucus, check them out, IndieCannabisCaucus.com, Indie Cannabis Caucus on Facebook. Reach out. They're going to start, getting this stuff in order. If you want to be a part of that, reach out. They'll put you to work. And I'm excited to see how that plays out. And again, every year that you're established in a particular movement and motion, the better it gets. And the more known you are, and the easier it is to get where you want to go. But as soon as you quit, you got to start all over again. So again, I applaud everybody that put in the work. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition, it had a good run. It was a great measure. But that's a lot of signatures, requires a lot of work when you ain't paying nobody no money. And they've got a plug, from a guy named Bob in Valley City. And all they got to do is go to the store, pick up groceries, and then meet Bob in the parking lot. It's kind of hard to motivate that cat to make change. Because that cat loves Bob and loves just being able to come out of the store in the grocery cart, seat belts the kid in, packs the fruit punch and the whatnot in the back, and then boom, there's Bob. Yo, what up, Bob? And bam. So the line between kind of legality and illegality, because everybody knows cannabis isn't bad, there's a relaxing. Like, I would imagine if it was still a little more, if there's still no states that had it legal, there would be more mystique. It's almost like when you see like the youngsters and it's such a reduced amount, like kids aren't doing it anymore because it's in legal states. It's just not cool. So it's almost like, promoting it to make it legal is almost not even cool anymore either. Well, anyway, I got brand new Cloud Cult, all you Cloud Cult fans. This is One Way Out of a Hole, KRFF 95.9. Oh, man, One Way Out of a Hole. Brand new Cloud Cult. That was stinking awesome. KRFF 95.9. Well, it's about that time. You know what time it is. It's about time to get that Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on. But first, I want to tell you the programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by S&S Incorporated. S&S works one-on-one with you to provide personal or business tax prep, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll services. Schedule your appointment with them at their West Fargo office located at 45 8th Street East, Suite 104. Visit them online at facebook.com/S&S Incorporated for more info. Check out S&S Incorporated for all your tax prep and accounting needs, and it is going to be tax time here soon. So if you want to get your thing happening, do it at S&S. So let's rock and roll, should we? All right, we're right on the other side of this. Oh, yeah. All right, you all with your medical cards, get that ice in that glass cylinder. Get your lawn chairs out, fold them out. Keep them inside, though, huh? I'll see you in a minute.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. The super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
We're not going to let you wait too long here. We'll just go ahead and shut her down earlier. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on Radio Free Fargo, 95.9 on your dial, huh? We're going to talk about cannabis legalization, cannabis news. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about, so I'm not going to belabor you. Again, thanks for listening on the best radio station, independent radio in the world, according to me. And I'm sure there's one other person that believes the same thing. Now, first of all, let me tell you this. Let's talk about this. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act. No longer, the deadline is happening like in a day. So they were shy of the signatures. So now they're revamping, regrouping. They're looking for people to sponsor these new endeavors coming up. It's going to be a regular bill that'll require way less signatures. It's not a constitutional amendment. It'll show up on your ballot. And so that's going to be more likely. So, shout out to them. And then a medical cannabis law change. I believe they're going to try to push for growing option, and I'll keep you inputted. Is that the right word? I'll keep it posted so you know when I know. And so again, if you're looking, they're going to need people to sponsor. So I'll get a hold of them, and they will turn you on to that. Now, I also want to mention in South Dakota that there's a couple Senate bills, number 13 and number 24, if you hail from South Dakota. And I believe if you can call this number, 605-773-3851, and tell them vote no, and you're from North Dakota, hey, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to narc on you. And are they going to ask? Go to South Dakota. Call them, get into the border. Use the payphone if those exist. You tell them vote no. They're like, well, hey, who's your senator? You're like, well, I'm in bloody blah blah county, and then go back to North Dakota. I mean, it's not a suggestion. That sounds like a crime. I couldn't promote that. But anyway, if you're in South Dakota, make sure you follow up and bug the state senators here, because here's what's happening. Senate Bill 13 would reduce legal protection for medical cannabis patients in South Dakota and increase the likelihood of arrest and prosecution. So that's a bad idea. Call 605-773-3851. Tell your senator to not do that. Also, Senate Bill 24 would severely limit home cultivation by qualifying medical cannabis patients, which basically, they never wanted home cultivation in the medical program in the first place, and if legislators had their way, they would have kiboshed that from the get-go. So this is what they'll do. They'll say, yeah, you can grow if you've got 4 fingers growing out of the back of your neck. Yeah, you can grow if your estimated time of life will expire in a few hours. Yeah, you can grow if you're 117 or older. You see what I'm saying? So all of a sudden the parameters shrink, and most general medical person won't be able to use it. So again, that's an action alert. Make sure if you're in South Dakota, go ahead and handle that. So South Dakota, man. So as you know, I've always pushed South Dakota for better cannabis laws. They say marijuana, they ought to be shot because they know better. And the next time I see this Matthew Schweck, I'll tell him, listen, man, why isn't it South Dakota's for better cannabis laws? You know what I mean? But anyway, so you guys know that this whole thing, Amendment A, this multi-subject thing, was paid by Christie. It was a big deal. They used the taxpayers' money to thwart something they voted in. It was a big mess, and these guys, South Dakota for better cannabis laws, they were pushing NOM to explain how much money they spent of taxpayers to thwart the will of the people. Well, like any kind of general bully that we're seeing, when you get put in a corner, all of a sudden they go on the offensive. And that's what's happening here. They went on the offensive. And so now they're suing. Kristi Noem is suing South Dakota for better cannabis laws. And we'll figure that out here. Anyway, the Noem administration said today that South Dakota legalization advocates should cover the cost of her lawsuit to overturn Amendment A. That will not happen, they say. The quote by Matthew Schweck, it's hard to say, I don't know him, so it could be any pronunciation. South Dakota cannabis reform advocates have no obligation to pay for Governor Noem's political crusade to overturn the will of the people. To suggest otherwise is ridiculous. Amendment A was a sensible and well-drafted initiative approved by a majority of South Dakota voters at the ballot box, and it was only repealed due to a deeply flawed court ruling that relied on a far-fetched legal theory lacking evidentiary support. And we're going to talk about this even further because there's an Amendment C that's being introduced. It has nothing to do with cannabis, but it has a lot to do with those fat cats, legislators making extra money from tax dollars. And there's a couple duderoonies that are suing them under the same premise of there's more than one subject being violated in Amendment C. And we'll talk about that next. So anyway, driven by her desire to deprive South Dakotans of personal freedom on cannabis, Governor Noem went out of her way to create an unnecessary legal battle over Amendment A and used taxpayer money to do it. As a result of her actions, South Dakotans paid to have their own votes reversed. And now, like I said, she's now suing this advocate group who's fueled and ran purely by donations, So it's like, it's crazy. So here's a cannabis moment, and we're going to flesh this out a little more. This was published 6 days ago. South Dakota governor wants cannabis activists to pay legal bill. So the governor wants cannabis activists behind a 2020 legalization initiative that her admin overturned with a court challenge to pay the legal fees rather than have taxpayers foot the bill. So after South Dakota voters passed the ballot proposal, everybody knows that, to legalize cannabis, she funded a lawsuit, and again, because she funded it and she asked for it, because it was an executive order by the governor, Supreme Court had to look at it. Now, if she hadn't have, then they would have just moved on and it had been legal and da-da-da-da-da. I do want to shout out that Flandreau Tribe in Yankton. If you need a medical card and you need some medical cannabis, make the drive. It's a little bit north of Sioux Falls, a little bit south of North Dakota. But anyway, I've heard it's a one-stop shop. You go in there, somebody get you a card, somebody get you some product, then you can go home. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, it's the only dispensary in South Dakota that provides medicine. Okay. Not Christy. Christy ain't got an option for you. But she's certainly after the advocates for cannabis. And it's just, but then you'll see her, on commercials talking all purty with her sexy lips about how she's all into it. But if you know what's going on, I mean, to me, if I didn't believe politicians double spoke or if they had ulterior motives, but then what came out of their mouth was floral array to get you to do a particular thing that hasn't been spoken, right? The unknown result. It was watching her as I was reading and learning about what was really going on. It was crazy. So now she wants them to pay the legal bill for her lawsuit. It's crazy. So anyway, Ian Fury, a spokesperson for the governor's office, told the Argus Leader that the proponents of Amendment A submitted an unconstitutional amendment and should reimburse South Dakota taxpayers for the costs associated with their drafting error. So they call it a ridiculous request, South Dakota, for cannabis laws. So a recent poll found that most South Dakota voters approve of Noem's job performance. Just 39% approve of her handling of cannabis legalization. The governor's up for re-election this year. My presumption is she's going to get back in because we're all into this freedom-loving thing. And when you're looking at right and lefts, she's the epitome of right in the epitome of a right state. And yeah, everybody's kind of bummed about her cannabis thing, but I would think a lot of them are still going to vote for her, but that's just me. Let's see here. So I'm going to try to here's what I'll do. I'll just suggest this to you. There's a article from the Dakota Free Press. It's called, it's by Corey Allen Heidelberger, and it's a great read, but it's a little involved. But basically, the title is Noem says sponsors of unconstitutional laws should pay legal fees. And though Noem unilaterally authorized the state's involvement in the case, the campaign committee responsible for putting the question of cannabis legalization before the voters, taxpayers shouldn't have to foot the bill. So we know all that. So anyway, this is just a good article. Again, it's by Dakota Free Press. It's South Dakota's true liberal media. And give it a shout out. Check it out. Corey Allen Heidelberger if you want to. And we'll keep moving on here. Because in light of what she's trying to do, and this is from Kelloland, local news, South Dakota. Posted January 18th. Lawsuit says Supreme Court ruling on cannabis amendment should apply to state's Amendment C. All right, well, let's look at it. What is Amendment C? So apparently Amendment C violates the South Dakota Constitution by pairing two distinct issues into one vote. Where have we heard that before, right? And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the double-sided hypocrisy of the legislators we vote in and their ideas, and then what we want and their ideas, and then how that clashes. So anyway, David Owen of Sioux Falls, not to be confused with another David Owen, not from Sioux Falls, and Jim Holbeck of Renner, they filed a lawsuit. That's awesome. That challenges the legality of Amendment C. The lawsuit says the Minnehaha court should declare Amendment C unconstitutional because it consists of more than a single subject, and that it does not allow voters to vote on each subject separately. Okay, so the legislature approved Amendment C for a citizen vote in the June 2022 primary. So it's going to be on the ballot. And just check it out. Amendment C asks voters to address 60% voter approval require for appropriations, which is money, increased of $10 million or more during the first fiscal years of the initiative, as well as 3/5 voter approval for initiatives for increasing taxes. Let me just read that again. Amendment C asks voters, please give us your approval so we can, above increases of 10 million or more, we can please increase taxes, which basically take money from you. They want to take money from you. If you make more money, they want to take more money. But now don't get them started on cannabis because they're going to nitpick. They're going to find every possible little cranny of judicial blah, blah, blah to tell you you can't have what you want. Now, this is what the legislators want, and they've already approved it. So anyway, the Attorney General explained Amendment C as this. This constitutional amendment requires that any measure, proposed constitutional amendment, or referred measure imposing or increasing taxes must obtain 3/5 of the vote to be passed. This constitutional amendment also adds that the requirement that any initiated measure, proposed constitutional amendment, or referred measure, the state to appropriate $10 million or more during the first 5 years must be obtained. Now, the first issue is that if it requires any initiated measure, proposed amendment, or referred measure, must obtain 3/5 of the votes to be passed. Now, just imagine here what's happening. There's two significant things happening in here, and one is horrible for the people, and the other one is great for the legislators, and not so much for the people. But it's two distinct different things. One is they want to increase taxes after a certain amount of money during a certain amount of time. Okay? But here's the other one. They want to make sure that if you, the people, have a measure, this time they want 3/5 of the votes to be passed. They want 3/5 of the votes to be passed. So I don't even know what that means, but it definitely sounds like two distinct issues. The taxation supermajority requirement is entirely separate and distinct from the spending supermajority requirement. Absolutely, says the lawsuit. So Owen and Hallbeck, they point out that Amendment C follows the South Dakota Supreme Court ruling on Amendment A, or the Hemp and Recreational Cannabis Amendment. So in that ruling, Supreme Court held that Amendment A contained multiple subjects because a voter who wanted to vote to legalize hemp had no choice but to also vote to legalize recreational cannabis and vice versa. So that's crazy, right? So now what do you think? What do you think? And I'll let you know as we get through this thing. Is that going to be allowed? You know, will that go to the Supreme Court? I don't know. But how could you not sue this because here's the thing. There's two distinct subjects in this Amendment C. There has to be, if there's an initiated measure, there needs to be 3/5 of the votes to be passed. But then if there's 10 million or more during the first 5 years, blah, 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 it's an added requirement. So that's two different issues. So it's going to be exciting to see because here's what I don't like saying. I don't like saying the catchphrases everybody's saying, like, throw the baby out with the bathwater, gaslighting, paper tiger, but and the new one that everybody's saying, it's good for me, but not for thee. That's what's happening here. So a big fat boo on South Dakota legislators, man. They just got it all messed up. I mean, if anything, I respond better to honesty. Just say you don't like cannabis. Say you're going to do your devil level best to keep it from happening. Say you're a hypocrite. Say that you love taxing people for more money, but you don't want cannabis because you're not going to make as much money. Just say that. But because I believe certainly the American people are starting to see through a lot of this talky, facade, this facade talking, this mirage, the communication mirage you guys are painting. But anyway, let's keep moving, shall we? Let's talk about this. This is from Montana Public Radio. State courts report low demand for expungement of cannabis-related convictions. So basically, criminals don't even care. They just don't care. Montana courts are going, hey, oh, you criminals from cannabis, get in here, we'll expunge. They're like, nah, we're good. And that's kind of the bottom line. Like that, it becomes a political tool, like to be thought of a certain way. Like when Dougie B, he wanted to be cool and go, yeah, I'm all with this expungement. All you got to do is take blood. You got to bring, your third removed aunt from a state 200 miles to the south or further. And then you have to, spend $5 to apply. And then you got to go in front of like this board, You got to have a bell to make sure your shirt's tucked in. It's like, well, it's just not that big a deal. And then they were like, well, nobody wanted to jump through all those hoops to get, because really, nowadays, if you have cannabis on your record, nobody cares. It's just not going to, I mean, if you don't have to pee to work at Amazon, come on. Do you think a little cannabis when you were, at LSU is going to set you back at all? You don't care. And that's what we're seeing here. Montana court. So court administrator Beth McLaughlin, we sell homes, says the judicial branch will likely forego creating a new court to handle clearing. The state legislator had even set money aside when drawing up cannabis legislation. McLaughlin says local courts should be able to handle the workload. Montana voters legalized it. And McLaughlin says her office is drafting a self-help form to help defendants. Just nobody cares. And that's kind of funny to me. And so we'll keep moving on. What else should we talk about? Let's see. Let me see here. Let me see. Let's talk about this. Cannabis moment. Stinking Texas agricultural. Excuse me. Texas agriculture. Oh, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, we about halfway through this sucker. I'll be back in next Thursday. You can take that to the bank. Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9 is what you're listening to this beautiful content and subject matter, which is the benefits of cannabis in a positive light. We've had a good one so far, and I'm about ready to read this article about this commissioner out of Texas. He's indicted in hemp license bribery scandal. Ooh, huh? So let's find out. So we are holding accountable powerful actors who abuse the system and break the law. Our community needs to know that no one is above the law and will face justice. I mean, I don't know what the word hyperbole means, but that's what that sounded like. So anyway, let's check this out. Todd Smith, a top political consultant to Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller, was indicted Tuesday on felonious charges of theft, commercial bribery, related to taking money in exchange for state hemp licenses that are doled out through Millie Mills' office, according to Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza. Smith was arrested in May, accused of taking 55,000 Gs as part of a scheme, according to an arrest warrant affidavit. Smith and others were accused of soliciting up to $150,000 to get an exclusive hemp license from the Texas DOA. Smith allegedly said 25 Gs would be used for a public poll on hemp. Hemp license from the state cost $100, according to the arrest warrant. We are holding, so Smith could not immediately be reached for comment, but his attorney said in a statement that their client has not broken any laws. We are disappointed that the Travis County DA has obtained an indictment against Toddy Todd. He was not invited to address the grand jury. He's not guilty of these charges, tends to vigorously defend himself against the allegations. The legislator legalized hemp production, manufacturing, and retail in 2019, opening the door for the rise of CBD. The indictment comes as Miller seeks a third term as agricultural commissioner. Miller's challengers have already targeted him, attempting to link him to Smith. Let's see. Miller dismisses the allegations against Smith, whom he still employs. It happens every election. They know they're not going to get you on anything, but the process is the penalty. All they need is a headline, said Miller's political consultant under investigation for selling hemp licenses. Well, they brought him in for questioning. They said, okay, this was 8 months ago. They said, we're not filing charges and we're not indicting you. So into the story, folks, move on. But they got the headline, so they bring up that old crap. Well, it sounds like Miller's got his head on straight. And he's going to review indictment. He's not ready to throw Smith under the bus and is not surprised, suggesting it's politically motivated. So, and it seems like Austin is doing some sort of decrim thing, too. I'll keep you up to date on that. So, we've got a couple articles here left. What do we got? Let's talk about this. This is MJ Biz Daily. Oh, I was going to say something before I forgot. Now, if you've ever gone to maryjane.com for your news, I get articles from there all the time. Here, I learned something today. Snoop Deal Double G, Snoop Doggy Dogg, owns that media news site. So anything you're reading on there, it's from the Snoop Doggy. Isn't that crazy? I mean, what more does he need to do? Now he's an editor of a social platform news platform. But anyway, in a move to stifle illicit sales, New Jersey won't allow cannabis home grow. See? So, I mean, again, this is what's happening in South Dakota because at the end of the day, the legislators are like, yeah, let's just let it through. Let's not push the people too much. Let's let them vote it. But then we can use that, whatever, the 65% voting to start changing things, adding things. It's not good. So the legal right to grow cannabis at home apparently will not apply to cannabis consumers in New Jersey. Incoming State Senate President Nick Scutari said he did not see home grow happening right now because permitting home cultivation would only further the illicit cannabis market. They just love saying that. Scutari made his anti-home grow comments during a recent webinar. He says, I'm not against cannabis being grown for medical and maybe even just rec, but we've got to let this industry ... It's not even off the ground yet. So it sounds like capitalist pig speak for we want to make sure the spaces that we have pumping us tax dollars. Because you ain't getting no taxes from Jimmy Jim outside the 7-Eleven kicking down Ace for $20 or whatever. So I believe this is just their way of keeping all the monies right now into a projected budget. They want to be able to go, well, we can make this amount, blah, 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 blah. But if you've got a bunch of people growing it and selling it, then they start taking that into consideration, and then they start chattering. So, under New Jersey law, rec sales are supposed to begin by mid-February. Launch is running behind schedule, of course. Question of home cultivation is quickly turning into a dividing line with cannabis businesses and activists. So check this out. Legal operators often more interested about protecting market share and minimizing home growth. Cannabis activists, meanwhile, argue in favor of the right of medical cannabis patients to cultivate their own medicine, and that is the ball field that I am in. And Scutari didn't close the door on home cultivation, which means he's just doing lip service now for both sides. So I don't know about you, but in 2022, I mean, when are we going to get some, when they talk about like the real Slim Shady, please stand up. I feel like we need the less shadies to start standing up when it comes to legislators. We got to start, vetting these cats a little better. You know what I mean? Because it's just, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but the faith in my political leaders are certainly waning. And their talking is all talky. It's all prepped through people who are like, well, don't say this, don't say that. Don't be real. Give them what they want. Boo. So let me just riff this quick. This from Cannabis Now. Wild West hits New York City. Unregulated cannabis dispensaries are booming. Now, I mentioned, a couple places where you could go in and buy stickers for $60 and then there was an eighth in your bag. Well, anyway, the permitted limits, well, let's see. So New York State has been in a strange state of legal limbo since cannabis was legalized there last spring. Criminal penalties for simple possession have been lifted, and those for home cultivation within permitted limits are set to be removed by the end of September or summer. But as of yet, there is no regulatory structure. So, last summer, New York City had an explosion in cottage industry, being hawked from tables set up in parks. And now there's like literally an unregulated cannabis chain called Empire Cannabis opened its first outlet on 8th Avenue and 17th Street in Chelsea in October on the Lower East Side. So there's absolutely no sense whatsoever of flying below the radar. The staff were matching T-shirts emblazoned with the name and glass cases filled with the whatever. But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. That's what you just listened to. And I'm happy and very grateful that I can bring that to you. I'll be here next Thursday. We'll do this all over again. Programming on KRFF 95.9 FM Radio Free Fargo is being underwritten by Morehead Herbal Galleria. Morehead Herbal Galleria in Minnesota's only CBD Delta House. They offer carts, vapes, CBD oil, pet tinctures, and more. Morehead Herbal Galleria is located at 2921 South Frontage Road, Suite number 1 in Morehead, Minnesota. Their phone number is 218-512-0355. Open 10 a.m. through 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday. For more info, check out Morehead Herbal Galleria on Facebook and their website, www.moreheadherbalgalleria.com. Again, thanks for checking us out, checking me out. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. And this was a good one. I'm going to play a little music, and then I'm going to tuck you guys in. I'm going to get out of here. And then Sticky Arts Music Mart's on deck. Here is Simulation Swarm by Big Thief. This is brand new, too. You guys will dig it. I don't know if you guys enjoyed that as much as I did, but that was Simulation Swarm by Big Thief, and that's brand stinking new off their Dragon New Warm Mountain I Believe in You album. Again, Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9 LPFM, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's what you just got done listening to on the best independent radio station in the world, as far as I'm concerned. On deck is Stinky Arts Music Mart in here in just a few minutes. I can assure you this time he's here because I seen him. So in just a few minutes, stay tuned for that. Stinky Arts Music Mart on deck. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, blackcottagealchemy.com. Black Cottage Alchemy Products, body butter over in Tochi Products or Odds to Ends in West Fargo. They sponsor this show. Shout out to them. And if you like the content that you hear, maybe pick up some body butter and you'll thank me later because it is good stuff. Again, I'm going to get out of here so Stinky Art can get in here. This show talks about cannabis in a positive light. Educate yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. I'll be back in here next Thursday. You know that I will. And again, enjoy January. And cross your fingers and hope that it's done soon. Again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news. I'll see you next Thursday. Here's David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.